We're joined now by Eric Mandel, the founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network. So thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
You know, the U.S., we've seen the U.S. envoy, the ambassador, double down on criticism of Israel's intervention in Syria. The envoy, that's Tom Barak, who's managing all these things. They say it came at a very bad time. You know, Ambassador Huckabee is upset by settler violence last week. Look, it feels like a stark turnaround from the sort of ecstatic moment that we were in around the U.S. and Israel together in around the Iran strikes. You know, how do you describe the current moment we're in with the White House, the way they're looking at the Netanyahu administration?
So I think it's a confluence of three factors. I think we should separate out what's going on with Syria and the Druze. I think we should think about the attack of the church in Gaza, and then think about what happened in the West Bank, where the violent settlers committed arson. So Tom Barak has basically said that Israel's undermining the stability of the region. And I'll quote him, Israel's creating a very confusing chapter at a very bad time. He says that the Syrian minorities, and this goes against really some facts, are smart enough to say that they're better off with a centralized government as opposed to some type of autonomy, maybe analogous to the Iraqi Kurds. And then there was a moral equivalence that he said. He excused al-Shara. He said the killing, revenge, and massacres are on both sides. And he says Syria has, quote, conducted themselves as best they can. No acknowledgement that Israel prevented a Druze October 7th with child gang rapes and the humiliation that was going on there. So I think when we look at these three different issues, I think it's going to be three bigger questions than this. And the questions are, will the United States back Israel up that the Syrian military cannot be south of Damascus? I was with Northern Command a couple of months ago. They said that basically al-Shara was basically using police uniforms for people, black police uniforms, to come south of Damascus and take control of cities as opposed to full HTS. And I think the second part is his comment that should not be lost here, where he said that the Americans have no position on a defense pact between Turkey and Syria. I think those are the bigger and larger questions going on. And then it gets to the other issues. As far as the Gaza church situation, this is part of bad Israeli Hasbara. Israel should have been out in front of this issue, not waited for Trump to call. And the third one, which now when Mike Huckabee is coming out against you, the third part about the arson of the violent settlers, Israel really needs to get a hold of the small, fringe, but out of proportion of violent settlers and bring them to justice, because that is terrorism of what they're doing. These are not hilltop views. These are people acting violently, and they're acting in a manner of terrorism.
I agree with you wholeheartedly there, especially look, when Ambassador Huckabee's upset, we've gone off the rails in some way here. This should not be the scenario that we're in around this. I'm going to bring us back to the Syria topic here, and Ambassador Barak U.S. Ambassador talking about there's no plan B, you know, than working with the current Syrian authorities. And some of the statements quoted in Axios have to do with, you know, derailing the president's plans right now. Is this White House administration appear to be really invested in bringing these guys in from the cold and sort of normalizing Damascus with the rest of the region, with Israel, perhaps?
I don't think there are people in the administration who really want to get into the weeds. Basically, I think Marco Rubio is the one closest to really knowing what's going on, but I'm not sure he has the most influence there. I still think there is an isolationist wing within the White House that's still angry that America worked with Israel in the attacking about Iran, and is still looking to isolate Israel and to become and to distance ourselves from Israel. And I think there's that tension and friction is still going on in the administration. As far as Syria goes, Israel, has been brilliant in many ways. When Assad fell, how they went into the buffer zones, how they created those 9 strategically located places in the buffer zone areas, how they've preemptively struck old Assad and an IRGC on Hezbollah weapons areas and military people there. But the next part regarding the Druze here, one is that the Druze are 120,000 strong in Israel. They fight disproportionately higher as part of the combat units, and I don't think that's appreciated all in the United States. But it's also, it's not close. Squeda, Dara, those are places are not where Israeli troops can go and defend them, so they do have aerial choices there.
Certainly a complex arena. Eric Mandel, thanks for breaking it down for us and joining us all the way from the United States. Thank you.